Hi, so my name's Andy and I'm from Space to Breathe. And this is another one of our wellbeing half hours, our 30-minute wellbeing sessions. And sometimes content will run for different periods of time, but the idea is to take half an hour and we'll give you a little task to go and do at the end of it. Half an hour just to think about you and how you're doing and how you're getting on. Kind of lockdowns into its second week. Still lots of things feel like they're changing, lots of things on the news, different kind of comments about what we can and can't do. It all still feels maybe quite muddled and quite confused. And it's been noticeable. I'm reading things that people are putting online and following different blogs and posts that there's quite a lot of stress going around. And so I wanted to think about stress and just for half an hour, give you just a few things that you can try to think about self-awareness. And that feels like that key idea. We thought about that last week, that when you can begin to see really truly where you are and honestly accept it, then you can think about doing things, changing, improving things, flourishing, looking after yourself. But it takes that step of stopping and, okay, well, what's going on? Where am I? But to begin with, let's just take a moment to be still. And I'm going to share a few slides, which hopefully will help. And this is the first one I want to share, just give you a little bit of moment to be calm. Have a look and listen to the waves on this little video. It's funny how the sound of water can make us feel quite calm, and there might be something in the resonance of the sound or the gentle ripple. But it probably also reminds us of times and places where we felt calm and at ease. So I'm just going to show it to you again and just put the volume down just a little bit. We probably know when you're not stressed, and maybe sitting on a beach in the sun looking at the sea is one of those times where you think, oh, it's just so relaxing. I mean, maybe if there's lots of little kids running around, it really isn't. But we can all think of those moments of just being calm. So I'd like you to think about a place where you know you found or you find calmness. For me, I always go back to the beach where my parents used to live, in Littlestone in Kent, and just sitting there watching the sea. And anything could be happening in my life. It used to just be able to bring me moments of calm. It's good to be able to visualize a place like that, because sometimes we can use that to think about what it is to be calm and still. And that can help us identify stress, because we can understand the opposite. So just take a moment to go to that place in your imagination. I'm going to play the video just one last time. Just give you some space. stress is this thing that feels exactly opposite to that. Stress can feel messy and difficult, and we don't quite know where we're kind of going with it. It can feel like something that just can overtake us. And the thing to know about stress is that stress is not in itself a bad thing. Stress is what our bodies naturally do when we feel threatened. But it's when it's elongated, it's when it's stretched over time, or when you're living with stress for a really long period of time, that's when it can become unhealthy for you in terms of your mental health, but also your physical health. Stress has been around for quite a while. I like this little quote that I'm going to share with you from, well, let's say it's quite a long time ago that this was said. Sorry, I'm just going to share the screen with you. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. Now, that might sound like kind of modern popular psychology, but actually that was written by a guy called Lucius Annaeus Seneca in AD 63. Stress kicks around and has been around and is part, again, as I say, of being human, but it's something that's been talked about for quite a while. And I just want to give you 3 ideas and encourage you to work on maybe one of them that might help you think about and deal with stress. Firstly, to think about taking the pulse of your stresses. To secondly, thinking about noticing the signs. And the third thing, to think about building resilience. So how do we do this? Let's start with taking the pulse. We love this little simple tool called the stress container. Imagine something that looks like a water butt or a big kind of water cooler or one of those kind of things that dispense cold drinks with a tap on the outside. And in the stress container, you think about 2 things. Inside the container, you can see on the example on the right-hand side there, you just write down all the things that stress you out. And remember that stress is very subjective, it's personal. So many people write things like washing up, or the state of the bathroom, or particular sounds, or particular things that can happen that feel quite small, but really cause irritation for you. It's important to recognize them, know your pressure points. And then by the tap, think about writing and write down all the things that relieve stress. So there's things I put there like music or meditation or silence, but it could be walking in the outdoors. It could be gardening. It could be cooking. It could be watching your favorite TV show. It could be playing a sport. And the idea is you just join the 2 together. So be aware of what causes you stress. And when those things are taking place and when life is more full of those things, just be aware of that and be kind to yourself. But also be aware of what relieves stress. So if you're feeling particularly stressed, if stress is elongated for you, how do I build in a little bit more of this? So to give you an example, when the second lockdown was announced, I don't know if you remember, it was that press conference that was going to be at 4:00 and then at 5 and ended up at 7:30. And we all knew it was coming because it all been leaked. And then it just took over a Saturday and it was very disruptive and it felt like a blow. And on the Sunday morning, I got up early and I knew that one of my releases on the tap from my stress container was the garden. And I knew another was music. So as soon as it was early enough that I wouldn't really totally annoy my neighbors, I took a little Wi-Fi speaker outside. I put on Stevie Wonder really loud and I just potted in my garden for 2 hours. And it didn't remove the lockdown. It didn't remove the problems, but I felt lighter because I knew it's a way that I can release the tap. So think about the things that stress you and the things that release it and try and bring the 2 together. That's a way of taking the pulse of the thing of your stress and how stress affects you. Let me give you another idea, and that's this. How do I notice the signs, the things that tend to take place in my life when I'm stressed? So for many of us, we might drink too much, we might eat too much. And those are obvious things that we might do when we're feeling stressed. I've had a rubbish day, I'm going to get a takeaway. And in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. But obviously over time, that can become a problem, particularly in terms of alcohol. But also recognizing that I do that is important. It doesn't necessarily mean you might still choose to do that, but it means that you're on the case of it. You're noticing it. It's not just drifting past you. Or maybe you get more irritable, or maybe you don't sleep so well, or maybe you get a particular pain. For me, I hold my stress here in my left shoulder blade. I've got no idea why that is the case, but I do. I hold it there. And when this shoulder blade gets tense and tight and it feels like it's got a massive knot in it, sometimes it can be because I need a good stretch out, but sometimes it can be that I'm holding stress there. There are bodily things that happen when I'm stressed. Remember, before we used to think about our emotions being in the heart, people used to think it was in the gut. So maybe tummy ache or different things like that. What are the signs of stress? And when you see those signs, it might be that you're not aware actually what's going on, but it can be a little hazard light on your dashboard just to say, okay, what's going on? So can you take time to think about what those signs are? That's idea number 2. Idea number 3 is about building our resilience. Now, resilience is talked about quite a lot. And it's sometimes talked about in a way that you just think, well, that's great, but how on earth do I get it? So we found a helpful little analogy of these 2 things, a frying pan or an oak tree. Let me explain. A frying pan is something, like that's hard. And I imagine you putting it in front of you, and resilience sometimes being this thing where you create a boundary. Now that's great if you need something to protect you. And sometimes we really do. And that's at the heart of that bodily reaction. But I'm also aware that sometimes my frying pan can get in the way. It can block me from being vulnerable. It can stop relationships forming. It can mean I withdraw slightly. So I sometimes really do need that protection. And you'll know of circumstances and situations where the best thing you can do is just give yourself a little bit of protection. But the oak tree is a different way of building resilience. And the oak tree's strength is in its roots. And its roots sustain it. There's a number of old trees in Encliffe Park near where I live, but there's one particularly one that's incredibly old. And its root structure, you can see it poking out of the ground, is incredible, and it's held it through many storms. So a third idea is, what are my roots? What are the things that give me strength? Imagine that tree drawing strength from the ground. What are the things that give me strength when life is hard? Can I write them down and take notice of them? And how do I get more of them in my life? You might even want to draw a tree, and in the roots, write down all of the things that give you strength. And in the trunk, maybe think about the things, the values that form you or shape you or give you structure. And then in the top bit of the tree, think about all the good things in life. When you're having a good day, Andy, on a good day, what does that look like? Or the fruit that's born from that tree. So those are just 3 ideas, 3 approaches. Take the pulse of your stress and well-being. Notice the signs and identify actions. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. That's better. So taking the pulse through the stress container, noticing the signs. What are the things that you do or that happen in you or that physically happen to you when you're stressed? And identifying actions through resilience, that sense of understanding the tree. What are the things that give me strength? Apologies, sorry about that. So you might want to look at the tree analogy, the stress container, or noticing the signs. Have a think about one of those 3 things in the remaining time in this half hour, and maybe feedback on the Facebook group and let me know how you've got on with it. Just just to finish, we're just going to do this little breathing exercise. And I just want to give you a few minutes just to be still at the end of this time. And even if you're not able to go on and think about one of those three things, hopefully this is going to be just a few minutes of calm and quiet. So find yourself a comfortable place and just begin to focus on your breathing. Just find a gentle rhythm that's comfortable for you and in and out that feels relaxed for you. Maybe on the inward breath, think about inhaling those little air particles going into your lungs and into your bloodstream. On the outward breath, maybe think about blowing a feather gently across a table and find a really relaxed rhythm. And I'm going to put some music on just for a few minutes. And what I'd like you to think about is, on the inward breath, think about what you need. What can I inhale? What are the things that I need in order to live? A little bit like oxygen is our kind of lifeblood. What are the things that you really need today? And on the outward breath, have a think about all the things that you can contribute and give and share with others. The work that you do, people around you who need support. How can I give to people today? And maybe think on one of those two things. I'm just going to give the music a couple of minutes now. So think on that sense of what can I give on the outward breath, and what can I receive? What do I need on the inward breath? And we're just going to give you some complete silence just for a minute or two more. So I hope that's helpful. 3 little things to try to become aware more of stress and how it affects you. Think about the stress container and doing that little audit of what stresses me and what can help me, what relieves stress. Think about the signs of when you're stressed. There's little dashboard warning lights. And then think about the tree analogy and your roots, what gives you strength. And have a play with one of those and see if it helps you, and do let us know. In the meantime, know that we're here to support anybody that needs to. We bunch of stuff that's on our website that can support people that's free right now, and have a look at the coronavirus support pages on our website and you'll get some more details on that. But otherwise, take care of yourself and those around you, and we'll speak to you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.